I would accept any nominations for chairman. Anyone?
I think
Matt Giglietti. Sorry, I was muted.
someone was muted. I second that.
Okay, thank you. And is there any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, I will move that we close nominations for chairman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of Matt Giglietti, raise your hand or signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Susan, are you there?
Aye. Aye.
Okay. Thank you. I think this makes, let me think about this for a minute now. 9, 21. This makes 42 years, believe it or not. I would like to nominate Susan Jacobs for vice chairman. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for vice chairman? Okay, hearing none, I'll move that we close nominations for vice chairman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of Susan Jacobs signify by saying aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, I'm opposed. No opposed? Okay. Okay, so it's Matt and Susan, new team. All righty. And for Donovan and Dwight, this is this agenda you see here is pretty standard of what we do and the order we do them. So you can get used to this. All right, the first item for discussion, number 3 on our agenda, is the report of our administrative officer and director of finance, Tony Genevieve. Tony.
Thank you, Matt. I have a preliminary year-end result here is a budget surplus of $583,000. As you all know, we allocate $400,000 from our fund balance. So in actual cash terms, our fund balance will increase about $183,000, which would leave it at $6.68 million, or 13.4% of our annual expenditures. Interestingly enough, as we began created this budget back in May of last year, there were a lot of unknowns including the tax situation and will we collect taxes. It was sort of early on in the pandemic, and I think we did very well, including all of our department heads. Our taxes will generate a surplus of just under $100,000. We did collect a back tax that we were hoping to get, and added to that. But we also did much better in our tax collection rate. We had dropped the tax collection rate slightly in the budget, and we did not see any reduction in our tax collections. So I thought that was good news. We have a surplus of $146,000 in intergovernmental revenues. Half of that comes from coronavirus relief funds. Those that we did not budget for, it's about $78,000. And we did have a surplus in special education excess cost grant funds of $54,000 and ECS of $23,000. So that rounds out our $46,000 surplus. Investment income is at a deficit of $140,000, which is significant based on the fact that the account has just over $150 in it as a budget. So they're just due to really low short-term rates that never really picked up.
Tony, can I ask a question on that? I don't recall in our current budget, did we reduce?
We reduced it significantly, yeah.
Thanks.
Charge for services, we have a surplus of $77,000. This always had shown a shortfall of about $100,000 in transfer station fees, and we all know about that. And however, we did see an uptick in we have a surplus in town clerk fees of $20,000 due to recordings mainly. That she's doing recordings down in the town clerk's office like crazy, and so and real estate sales generated some income there. Building permits, $88,000 surplus. Again, we've seen a lot of activity in a building office, and our rec fees $44,000. Finally, under transfers in, we did see a reduction this year in private duty work. There wasn't a ton of private duty work, and so our transfers in is revenue from our private duty jobs that we collect. It's like an admin fee that covers our administrative costs for mainly payroll costs. And because we had reduced private duty, we had reduced revenue coming in from our admin fee. Of course, that also means we have reduced expenditures from payroll. So they sort of, you'll see that later on in the report. On our expenditures, we have a surplus in the registrar. That was about $15,000. Our building official, even though he had increased activity, Andy is very efficient about how he conducts his business and where his time is spent. And so he actually had a surplus of $30,000 in his budget. Some of that, a lot of that due to savings in wages, his part-time wages. He only comes in as necessary. And so we have a savings there. Surplus in waste management of $45,000. We had a reduced tonnage in our solid waste. Ever since we introduced the scale, which was our first full year ending this year, I would say at least 30% reduction, maybe a little more, in our municipal solid waste that goes into the transfer station. We are looking to introduce possibly a fee, other fees, and other changes to the transfer station coming up in the next few months. Human services in the library. We had to guess when we would start programming, and both of those based on the pandemic. And so both of those have a surplus based on the fact that we probably started some programming a little later than we had thought we would. So there's some surpluses in those two accounts. And finally, our benefits is $223,000, and that comes from the reduction in private duty, which we discussed. Plus, we had some savings in healthcare, some coverage changes from some employees, and some workers' comp savings. Lastly, Woodbridge Board of Education. This is from the previous month. Had a surplus reported of $55,000. I'm not sure. They haven't had any final year-end reporting yet, so we'll wait to hear from them. Those are all the highlights of the year.
Okay, I don't know if I'm getting some kind of crazy feedback. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's maybe there's picking up. It stops when people don't talk. I don't know. So if you're not talking, please unmute. I don't know.
Yeah, I hear it too.
Yeah, it's crazy. I have a feeling that this might be the pickup because when we stop talking, it stops. So I don't know. Okay, are there any questions for Tony or comments? Obviously, Tom, I'm sure you're going to get into this, but that's pretty remarkable on the Woodbridge Board of Ed. We were planning on covering $110,000 deficit, and we now have a $55,000 surplus. So, and this all seemed to happen when the new superintendent came on board. So, it's a pleasant surprise, I think. Okay, Tony, what is the status of our audit?
Our auditors just started their field work this week and are doing the town this week, and the Board of Ed is the first week of August, doing our field work, which is essentially when they come in and test all of our transactions. They'll pick a sample of our payroll transactions to make sure that all of the payroll is properly justified, that the amounts that people are paid is approved properly, either in a contract or by the Board of Selectmen, and that all the taxes and all that is done properly. So that's one thing they'll test. They'll test our payables to make sure that all the payables are done properly, the approvals are taking place, purchase orders were done, and they'll test each area. And then they also test our tax transactions and our assessment. So they'll go in and they'll pick a statistically relevant sample of each department and test transactions to make sure that they're all done properly. If they find a transaction, let's say they test, I don't know, Karen, it was maybe about 20 transactions they tested. If they find one or two that don't test properly, then expand their testing and test a lot more transactions. So that's sort of how that works. So they'll do the testing this week, and then they'll come out in third week of September to finish the audit portion.
Okay, that's it.
That's it.
Any other?
No, I just want to mention that. Well, I just want to mention that. So the town has received our first one half of our American Rescue Plan funds. We received it a few weeks ago, which is the total we were supposed to receive is $2.6 million. We received $1.3 million. Although, unlike usual, with most grants, you apply for a grant, you receive approval for a grant, you do the work, and then you spend your own money, get reimbursed at the end. With this particular program, we received the money first without any clear direction on how exactly we're supposed to spend it. So it's sort of backwards as opposed to how we usually do things. So you're going to hear a lot about that coming up in the future about some guidance, but not enough where we're going to develop a plan, and there'll be some public outreach and be a public process. So that's it.
Okay. Any questions for Tony? No. Okay. Next is funding requests. The first is hold on a second. Do we just have this one?
It's one that was unsigned with the packet.
This
And
is the only one.
signed it last night.
This is the only one we have. Okay. And this is to reimburse the police department $20,000 for a portion of overtime as a result of Storm Isaias. How could we ever forget that? I will move acceptance of line item transfer 2021-31 in the amount of $20,000.
I'll second.
Okay, Tony, anything you want to?
I would say that I was hopeful that the department was going to be able to cover all of their expenditures for the year, and that was going to be the case until this most recent investigation caused some overtime where they were unable to cover these overtime from the storm. I was hopeful that they were going to be able to cover that from some of their other lines, but they were, because of the investigation, they weren't able to. So we have applied for a FEMA reimbursement for Isaias, and we are probably 95% of the way through that process. We just need to get a final sign off, and then the funds should be transferred to us. And so this is just a portion of that. I'm going to say maybe it's probably closer to 24, 25, where we're going to get reimbursed for other costs related to this debris removal and other items that were part of that storm. So.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of, is there any comments? Any other comments on this? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. 20,000. Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Okay.
I could turn that on.
Next is approval of minutes. This is our regular meeting on June 17th, and I will move acceptance of the minutes of the June 17th Board of Finance meeting as presented. Second?
Second.
Okay. Any corrections, adjustments, anything at all? Okay. Hearing none. I guess we're going to need a couple of abstentions here. All those in favor? The four of us who are here, and then I guess Dwight and Donovan.
Abstain, yeah.
Okay, very good. All righty. First Selectman's report. Beth.
I just unmuted, sorry. Took me a minute. Couple things from the Board of Selectmen meeting, which was last night. It very rarely happens when the second Wednesday and the third Thursday are in the same week. So woof,
Let's go.
you got to be quick, right? We talked a bit. We have 4 new board members, so we talked a little bit about the as part of the beautification of the town center plan. This proposal for bonding of several, which you guys discussed last month, and asked, we recommended that we go forward with that to a special town meeting and or a referendum. So we had all in mind to have a big discussion, and David Stein was going to come and go over the whole process with the new board members. and poor David could not make the meeting at the last minute. So we have since rescheduled a meeting for Wednesday, the 28th of July, and David will be there and he'll go over the whole process. And I'm hoping to make a decision that evening to move forward. My personal opinion is that we should just schedule a referendum and let the voters decide, as you guys voted to do last month. I think it's time. And you can tune in on the 28th and you'll hear what some of the board members, the questions and their answers, because they are new. So if you want to tune in on that one, it's 5 o'clock on the 28th. So that's coming up. We also had a report from the Amity Woodbridge Historical Society, and because this is these are town-owned buildings at the Darling House. They did a structural engineering survey that was paid for, I believe, by state funds. Am I right, Tony? I think so. And the Historical Preservation Office at the state. And it turns out that the buildings need a lot, but the only one that's urgent or immediate need is the ice barn. So $6,000 is required to take care of that, sort of shore it up. They don't want to take anything down that's historic, but they do need to shore it up because it's not safe. So that's going to begin immediately. The Board of Selectmen voted to go forward, and the Historical Society is going to pay for it, the $6,000 fund. So that's a good thing. And there was some discussion about whether or not it needs to go to an 824, and we thought it did, but now it turns out it doesn't. So they're going to begin that process immediately, get their permits and get it fixed up, because it is pretty dangerous. They were sort of cautioned not to have tours in that part of the structure. So everything else is sort of okay, the cow barn and all that other stuff. So that was something interesting. Regarding the Personnel Committee, the Board of Selectmen voted unanimously to hire Emily Cantor for the head of, wait a minute, Tony, I don't have it in front of me, Children's Services?
Yes, Children's Services.
Yeah. Okay. So that was good. And I guess it's a reduction in the salary at some level from what the previous person had. So a little bit of cost savings. Let's see, talked about the bond projects. There's Betsy briefly passed out, circulated to us a report that a study the Economic Development Commission did, and it's available. I didn't have a chance to even read it yet. I apologize, just been so busy. But if you'd like a copy of that, it's sort of asking residents, I think they had 300 or so responses as to what they'd like to see in the center of town and business and things like that. So we can get that out to you if you'd like to see it. It's going to be further discussed for the Economic Development Commission. But I think the one thing that came out was pretty much everybody felt that it was necessary to have more gathering places, even something bakery or something in the center of town, places where people can meet and greet, and in the business district as well. But I think more in the center of town was what came out of that. So if you'd like a copy of that, just let me know. We can get it to you, Mrs. Short. I can get that out to you. I attended the cell tower, the first of, I guess, a few meetings coming up. If you've been in a cave, there's a proposal from the Verizon Cellco company to put up a 140-foot tower in a neighborhood at 118 Newton Road, and there's a lot of opposition from a lot of neighbors. It's right smack dab, and it couldn't be more residential. It's pretty. So we worked with Verizon for a while. We gave them alternate sites. They kind of dismissed all of our proposals. So it's now gone to the Connecticut Siting Council, who does make the decision. There's no authority for this at all for the town to intervene. We can protest, but we have no, say in where it's going to go or who approves it. Plan and zoning, no one. So it's unfortunate. So I think it was Tuesday was the first evidentiary hearing where people who are parties or interveners can submit testimony. I didn't get called on because I ran out of time, but so I guess I'll have to go back to the next one and read my piece. However, later that evening for about 2.5, 3 hours, residents were allowed to submit public testimony. And I was very proud of our residents. Everyone was polite. They were also emphatic about the fact that this should not happen. And State Representative Mary Wieslander submitted testimony, same thing. And James Maroney, our state senator, did. And I think the only other one, George Cabrera, is going to submit something. And I think they're going to write a letter together, put it in opposition. So really isn't anybody that's in favor of it so far. I know we need service up there, but we'd like to work with Verizon to try to find a better spot that would, accomplish that.
Beth, can I ask you a question? I watched a lot of that, and it was. Now I know where it's going to be. I didn't really know before, but do you know if there's any other areas that they've approved something like this right in the middle of a residential area?
Not so far. We don't, oh, you mean in other towns?
Yeah, yeah.
That I don't know. The neighborhood, which is about there's lots of residents have banded together and hired an attorney, Keith Ainsworth, to speak on their behalf. And he started some of the questioning of Verizon, and he is going to come back with more questions. And I'm assuming we had, as you remember, we paid for a gentleman named Dave Maxon from Isotrope, who was an engineer, to review all of the data that they had and also try to come up with alternative sites. And he, the neighborhood asked if we could release him from the contract with the town, which was actually a good thing because now the neighborhood's paying for it. And he was not there, nor has he spoken yet. So there may be, he's probably got that research someplace that could come out. You're right, I didn't hear that yet. I do not know.
Okay.
So interesting points. So anyway, and lastly, I'm going to read you what I read to the Board of Selectmen last night. Don't worry, it's only a quick few sentences. Recently we received, this is Jerry Weiner got it and brought it to me and to Tony, an unsolicited call from a local real estate agent who represents a group of housing developers, the name of them being Arbor Haven from New York City. They are interested in purchasing land at the former Country Club of Woodbridge. Their very preliminary interest is to purchase approximately 100 acres from the town and build a combination of multi-use residence, which would consist of high-end single-family homes, multi-family lower-cost homes, with a percentage of these units to be affordable and possibly additionally age-restricted housing. They indicate that a more formal plan will be submitted, and if it was received, and I did ask the Board of Selectmen, and they agreed to have them present a formal plan at the August Board of Selectmen meeting. So I'll let you know if that's going to happen. Their proposal, this is just a phone call now, was to purchase the 100 acres for $9 million, and the town will retain approximately 50 acres for open space, recreation, and trail use. It's in the very preliminary stages, I will stress. I promise to keep you and the Board of Selectmen informed. And the only other thing I just want to tell you is, unfortunately, we forgot to reappoint Tony Genovese as the administrative officer. So we did that last night. So we got him till 2025. So it's always one we forget. So with that, if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer, but that's my report. Thanks. I know it went on a little long. I had a lot to tell you.
Any questions for Beth? Okay.
Thank you, Dana.
Yeah. Liaison reports. I think this is going to be quick because we have 2 people missing, and Amity does not meet in July, so I have nothing to report. Although I'm going to see if I can find out where they stand with their possible surplus and their plans for it, which is always a hot ticket item. So I'll see if I can come up with that. Let's see. Ellen, do you have anything? Can't hear you.
You're on mute.
I didn't go to the meeting for Human Services, and my iPad may run out of power, but I'll try to switch to my phone.
We're all set?
Yeah.
Susan, are you out there somewhere? Let's see.
I'm here. Beth covered the library staffing issue. I'll just say that the library is continuing to find normalcy in an unnormal world. The fire department's meeting next week.
Okay. Tom.
Wasn't a Board of Finance Committee meeting, but as Tony said, it looks like they're going to have even more of a surplus, which is amazing. Good job for them. I'm waiting to hear there was, some change in positions on the Board of Ed on the meeting on Monday, waiting to see who's going to be the head of the Finance Committee. That's all I have.
They also had some personnel moves, didn't they? Didn't Al Pulo leave? And
that I wasn't sure if that was official. I mean, has been public, but he's been gone, right, Tony?
Yeah,
now since July 1.
Yeah, they have an interim currently.
There's an interim, and I guess we're looking into what the new roles are going to be. Stay tuned. Right, Tony?
Okay. Next is designation of liaisons. Generally speaking, for Dwight and Donovan, if a position is currently held by a board member and they want to keep it, we let them keep it. Of course, we've lost Paul and Tom Kennebec, so theirs are open. And so let me go through in order that they're here. I do Amity, and I will continue to do Amity. Besides this, I'm vice chairman, so I'm going to do that. Woodbridge, Tom, you want to stay on Woodbridge Board of Ed?
Yes, please.
Okay. Ellen, you've requested police.
Yes,
And
I
so-
have.
And as much as you have some seniority, we're going to let you do police. Also, I think, Ellen, and it meets, I think, twice a year, is EMS commission.
Oh, okay, fine.
So you'll handle that also.
Yeah.
Which leaves Susan. Susan, you mentioned to me that you'd like to meet, you have two now, which is what, fire and library?
I've had fire and library for a year, and they generally often meet on the same night, and it's been
Okay.
quite the kerfuffle. I'd like to keep library and cede fire to somebody else if they'll take it.
Okay. Would you be willing to do some, well, let's see. So EMS is covered, police is covered, human services is open, right, Ellen? No, Ellen, do you want to do human services also, or you rather not do that?
I'd rather not.
Okay. So we'll make human services open. And Susan, you want to do library?
If possible.
All right. Ellen, now you were also doing rec?
No, I did rec before human services.
Okay, who's doing rec now? Who currently has rec?
It was
Well,
Tom.
Tom Kennebec. Tom Kennebec, so that's open. So, Karen, correct me if I'm wrong. Fire is open.
Yes,
Human services.
that's open and rec is open.
Okay. So, Donovan and Dwight, do you have any preferences?
I mean, I do rec because I was on the rec commission for a number of years, so I can do that if you want.
Okay.
And I don't know if there would be a problem with me being on fire, Sean.
Yeah. I think, Donovan, would you be interested in doing fire?
Yeah, I'll do fire.
Okay.
And then I can do human services because I was a liaison for.
Hey, Dwight, it's all yours. Thank
Is
you.
that right? Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
So that covers them, right? Are we
Yes.
good, Karen?
Yes,
Okay, well, thank you all. That's good. And,
Okay, good.
okay, I think that's about it. So, a couple of housekeeping items. We normally do not meet in August, so our next meeting will be in September. And, unless something happens where.
The only caveat to that is if there's a vote required for the bond issue.
For the bond issue, which would be a quickie.
Right.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to mention is whether we continue virtual on the web, or this would be in September, or we move to live meetings in town hall. At this point, I would rather just let's see what the future brings the next few months with the COVID situation, and then we'll poll everybody in September to see what your preference is. And then we'll go from there. But one thing I will say, I really don't want to, we learned our lesson the hard way of trying to do like the budget hearing, which again is not until next April, and the town meeting. We really need to do those live. And also budget meetings and the capital budget meetings. So we're going to have to talk about that and decide. I just find doing them virtually, it just loses a lot. So again, let's take the summer off. Let's see where this virus goes in the next 2 months. And then in September, we will discuss this as to how we want to do it. So, any other comments from anybody? Anything? No? And hearing none, I will make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Okay, we're good to go.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good rest of the summer, guys.
You got it. Thank you.
Bye all.